this series of videos, I'm going to show you how anyone can assemble and frost a layer cake. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I use in my home to put together a layer cake. In this video, we finally get it all together with just a few bumps in the baking road, but with some tips and tricks from this home chef, it can be done. Alright, we've made our frosting, we're ready to assemble our cake. I have the bottom layer here. You can see the side we cut off is facing up, and I have cut some pieces of parchment paper that I'm just going to very carefully stick under the edge all the way around. I'm actually going to turn it over so it curls down. I also have this little turntable that is really nice so that you can stay in one spot and just move the cake around. And the purpose of these parchment paper pieces is so I don't get my cake plate all dirty while I'm frosting. And I'm just sticking them under a little bit so that I can pull them out easily. It looks like I cut the perfect amount here. Okay, so now we are going to frost this, and I have my vanilla in my piping bag ready to go. And I've chosen a tip that is flat. It does have a scalloped part here on the bottom. If we were going to do a design like that, we could use that, but it doesn't really matter. I really just wanted it to be flat, and that's so I can spread a nice layer across the top here. So I'm gonna start by just kind of going around, and remember, I'm just a home chef. I am not a professional. So this isn't gonna be really, really pretty. And then I'm just gonna fill it in, and I am squeezing on a pretty thick layer here because I don't like to cheat when it comes to frosting. Once I've got it kind of covered there, I'm going to take my offset spatula and I'm just going to smooth it over. I'm not really going to try to spread too much. I've already put it evenly over the cake, so I shouldn't have to do too much work to just get it smooth. It's a little warm in here, so the frosting's a little sticky. So I'm just going to try to do it as gently as I can. Now, I've never claimed to be an expert. There are different ways of frosting a cake. Some people like to do a crumb coat, which is a very thin layer over the whole cake. And that's so your spatula doesn't pick up any crumbs, and then you have crumbs showing through your frosting. I've never really done that successfully. Don't have the patience for it. I've found that this technique works for me, but it's really whatever you like to do. If you want to do that thin layer crumb coat first, go ahead. I'm going to add a little bit more, especially toward the edge here, just so we make sure we have a nice thick layer of frosting before we add our second layer of cake. I'm also trying to leave my spatula as level as possible so that we have a nice level surface to place our next layer on. Okay, now don't worry about getting all the way out to the edge. Once we put the next cake layer on, we can squirt frosting right into that seam and fill that in really nicely. So now we're going to add our second layer. This layer we're going to flip over and place that way. And this is so you have a nice flat top, nice straight corners, and you can hide all of this with frosting. So it just makes a nicer, more presentable cake. So I'm gonna take my vanilla, and like I said, I'm just gonna squirt some nice filling in here. My parchment's coming off. You have to keep squeezing your frosting down in your bag. I have these great rubber bands. These are all Wilton products. Obviously they're not paying me, I just really like their products. And they're probably the most well-known cake decorating brand. You can get Wilton products at Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Farm and Fleet, several different places. Okay, now we're ready to frost the outside of the cake, and we're gonna do that with our chocolate frosting that we just made. So I'm gonna show you how to prepare your piping bag. This is a 16-inch piping bag. I just got these at Walmart. You can also get a 12-inch bag, but I wanted the bigger 16-inch bag because we're gonna be piping a lot of frosting on here, and a 12-inch bag wouldn't go very far. So the first thing I do is I fold over the edge. And I'm gonna fold it down a little ways. There is a line on the bag that says max. That's how full they recommend you fill it. And I'm gonna kind of open it up a little bit. And I'm using this great big tip that's a lot bigger than the one I just used, but it's about similar in design. It has this scalloped side and this flat side. And I'm gonna throw it down in the bag, get it down about as far as I think it will go, and then I'm gonna use my fingernail and make a mark on the bag. I'm gonna push it back out a little bit, and I can see my mark that I've made. And I'm gonna take my scissors. I'm gonna take my scissors, I'm gonna cut the bag straight off about where that mark is, and then I'm gonna squeeze this tip down into the bag. Now with the vanilla frosting, our bag had a coupler on it, this white plastic that holds the tip on. This bigger tip, I don't think they make a coupler large enough for it, but that's okay. It's not coming out of there very easily. So I'm gonna fold this down a little bit more, hold it in my hand like a cone, and I'm gonna fill it with frosting using my spatula. This is an inexact process. You just kind of put a big glob in there, shake it so it falls down in the bottom, keep filling. Okay, don't really want to go much more full than that. My max line is about here. So I'm going to straighten out the top of this bag. And I'm going to squeeze it and try to get some air out of there. You can see it coming out of the tip. So I'm going to squeeze the frosting down. See if I have an air pocket. Get the air pocket out of there. Twist it. And then I have these nice twist ties that I'm going to fasten around there, and that holds the bag closed so that I don't have to worry about that. So there, that's full, and now we're going to frost the cake. So I'm just going to very gently. Oh, look, it's turning on its own. Wow. I think the force of the frosting helped is helping my turntable turn. This is unexpected and kind of nice. Okay. So now I'm just gonna finish putting a nice layer on the top. And again, it doesn't have to look perfect at this stage because I'm gonna smooth it out with my spatula. All right, actually gonna add a little more frosting because you see I've gotten down to there already. Imagine if this was just a 12-inch bag, I would have had to refill already before I probably got the top done. So I'm gonna remove my rubber band. This is gonna get a little messy. Open it back up as best as I can. And I'm gonna try to get every last bit of frosting out of the bowl because I think we're gonna need it. Now remember that I made a batch and a half. The vanilla frosting was a half batch, the chocolate was a full batch. You probably need about that much to frost a layer cake because you have that added surface area between the two cakes. If you're just doing a batch of cupcakes or a sheet cake, one recipe of frosting should be plenty. I also like my frosting to not be super thin on whatever I'm frosting, so I might use a little more. All right, now for the sides, I'm gonna get down here at cake level. Oh, and once again, it's turning for me. This is great. I've never seen it do that before. Now, the problem with flouring your cake pans is that it will leave the sides of your cake kind of floury, which means it can be a little difficult to get the frosting to stick. All right, now I'm going to, even though it doesn't look like the cake is covered, I'm gonna take my large offset spatula and smooth everything out so that I know where I'm missing frosting before I use the rest of it. And look at how smooth that is on top now. Again, it's having some trouble sticking in some places, so I'm just gonna try to move it towards that side. Uh-oh, we can fix that. Again, we're doing this at home. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just gonna try now to kind of tack this top edge together to kind of hold that side frosting on. And I'm gonna take some off of here. Getting a little sticky. This is why we have the parchment down on our cake plate, because we're gonna get the surface of our parchment kind of messy, and you're not moving this cake after it's frosted. So you want to be able to just get rid of that mess. Okay. Also remember that if you have things that look ugly, we can just cover them with more frosting. Okay, I'm gonna smooth the edge a little bit more. I'm thinking I should have added just a tiny bit more milk to my frosting. It's a little stiff. That may have helped us if I'd added just a little bit more, but it's too late now, so we're gonna forge ahead and do the best we can. Okay, just gonna try to fill in some of these spots where I need a little more frosting, and I'll try to smooth them with the spatula. Remember, no matter how ugly it looks, it's gonna taste good. Okay. Cleaning off my smaller offset spatula so that I can use it. I think it's gonna help me get things under control a little better, because I'm not dealing with such a large Okay, so 47 hours later, I have the cake frosted the way I like it. It's not really pretty, but it's frosted. I think it's really dry in here, and so my frosting just really started to dry out. So I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead because I don't want to mess it up anymore. And now I can pull my pieces of parchment paper out very carefully. I don't want to pull away big chunks of frosting, so I'm just going to do this very gently. See, some of the frosting is trying to come with me. Okay, so you can see we've kept our cake stand clean, and now the last step is to cover up any mistakes we might have. In the final video, I will show you some quick ways to decorate your cake and add some finishing touches.